You're listening to the Working It Out podcast, part of the Humans of Hit network. I'm Alex, and I'm here to look into what inspires those we look to for motivation. I want to understand their real relationship with physical activity and the barriers they've had to break through to be happy, but also successful. Today on our fourth episode, we have Jordanne Whiley, who's an 11-time tennis Grand Slam winner and the only Brit to win all Grand Slams in a calendar year. That's mental. We spoke about everything from competing through pregnancy to depression and a strange relationship with tennis. I really loved how down to earth she is. I hope you enjoy this podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Jordanne Whiley.
Hiya.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you here.
No worries.
Cool. So our first question today is quite an open one, quite a nice one. We've done this with everyone so far. It's about we're a community here with Humans of Hit, and we ask people to induct one item into the Humans of Hit locker. So it's a big locker, so don't worry about size. And we ask you one thing related to physical activity, either from your past or present, one item that you'd like to induct. Well, to give you a bit of a think, I'll say what some previous people have done. Lauren Steadman, she said her pair of H&M socks that she wore during an event, and she actually won with them. And then Born Barracool was a pull-up bar because he won't be able to do a day without doing pull-ups because that's what he loves to do. So it could be any item at all. So yeah, what one item would you like to induct into our locker?
Probably my green TheraBand that has been with me for I don't even know how many years, but it goes everywhere with me, and I do like all of my warm-ups, cool downs, exercise. I use a band for like absolutely everything in my life, so I don't think I could cope without it.
Is that one that's been through all the competitions?
Yeah, like I've got through
as well.
Quite a few because I keep snapping them. But this one I've got now, I've had for a good couple of years. It's a trusty one, so it hasn't snapped.
Right, shall we drop a brand in? Who would you go with, so that if anyone's like, yeah, I want to be the next Jordanne Whiley?
I haven't got a clue. I don't even know where the TheraBand came from. It's like it just landed in my lap. I think one of my physios gave it to me because mine snapped and he probably replaced it. But literally, you can type in TheraBand and loads come up. But if you're going to get one, I recommend getting the ones with the thin tubes because they don't snap.
Okay, and is that one that do you get superstitious with items like that? If you didn't have it in terms of your preparation, because I know like footballers and their shin pads and stuff,
no, I just
you're
borrow
not at all
someone
superstitious.
Else's, as long as I've got a band of some sort, I'm all right.
Nice. So that kind of leads us on to the next question. So when it comes to physical activity for you, what one emotion would you use to describe your relationship with it?
Like a love-hate.
What's the first kind of love-hate? We'll go into both of those then. So what's the so we'll start with the hate. Why is it
because I hate
it in terms of your emotions?
Like it's not even a secret that I hate all forms of exercise, and my whole career is sport. So the love part is probably because obviously it's good for me and sport loves me, but I don't really love exercise.
Is that from a young age? Why didn't you love it, or is it more just
I don't know? Like I love
really
competing, and the adrenaline stuff, like that kind of stuff I love. But going to the gym, it's just not my cup of tea. But I know like you have to do it. Like you've got to do it. It's part of your job. You've got to do it. It's good for you and you feel great after it. But it's just the initial let's go to the gym conversation. Like my gym guy, he knows me so well.
Oh yeah. And
he knows, he's like, oh, can we do a session in the morning? I'm like, oh, he's like, come on, we'll have a cup of tea after. Like, all right then, let's go. Let's get it done.
So you normally have to be quite motivated.
I've always been really
then.
picky about my personal trainer and who's with me in my team, like who is my gym guy, because if he doesn't connect with me on like a friendship level, I just no hope, because he just can't get me in the gym. So my current personal trainer is amazing, like such an incredible guy, and a real dear friend as well. So I, even though I hate it, I'm like, yeah, let's just go to the gym. It'll be cool. We'll have a chat.
Was he a friend before? Is that how you found him, or was there quite a lot of
No,
work in terms of finding someone then?
he actually works for the LTA, so he's actually he's not my personal
Nice.
trainer, but he's like our program personal trainer. Um, but yeah,
Hmm.
I've worked really closely with him, and I've built a really good connection with him over the last, I don't know, 3 years or so. So I didn't feel the need to then go and get my own one because I just use him.
Cool. Nice. So in terms of the love part, you said it is mainly around
Mm.
the adrenaline and the winning. So even when you're, because I've listened to a few of your interviews, and it sounds like when you're on the court, you just, even when you're winning, you want to get off and just spend and then be with your family. Is the love part mainly around just achieving things with your family, or is it more the winning a medal? What kind of what's the
Yeah, I
what do you
feel
associate the love with?
like it's kind of like in sections because, like I just touched on, um, obviously my sport and exercise in general has done a lot for me in terms of self confidence. Because I was like a really scrawny kid,
Hmm.
um, and like now I'm really athletic. So in that terms, like how it's affected my body and body confidence and my self confidence and stuff, it's done me
Hmm.
wonders. Um, and in terms of sport, yeah, like I absolutely love winning and I love competing. Like I am a very outcome based person.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm really driven
Yeah.
by the challenge, by the competition. I know obviously everyone's different, but that's just me.
I'm exactly the same. Even when it comes, I'm quite competitive. Even though I haven't found what I'm good at yet. I will one day, but I will get there. But I'm really competitive. Even at work, it's like KPIs driven. There's always a target that I've got to work towards.
Mm.
Otherwise, I just have no motivation to do it at all. So you say about, you mentioned the LTA in there as well. For those who are listening and don't know, they're the tennis governing body. They do a lot from obviously performance all the way down to participation. How big an impact have they been to you, like throughout your career, in terms
Mm.
of first picking you up, and because you mentioned a bit in your videos
Yeah,
about school and stuff like that. So
they were
how
pretty
big were the
much
LTA?
everything, like I got talent spotted by well, they weren't called the LTA then, but I got talent spotted by them when I was about 11. I must have been about 11 or 12. And then, from then I went on to their junior program and then worked my way up to seniors. I'm 28 now, so I've been
Hmm.
with the LTA for, I'm not even going to attempt to do maths. What is that, like 17 years? I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
16 and a half
16.
years.
We'll call it 16 and a
So,
half. Maybe not.
I've seen the program like grow and develop and change and adapt, and there's been so many different people involved, like staff and stuff. So, I mean, they funded me from a very young age. They applied for the wild card that led me to go to the
Hmm.
Beijing Paralympics when I was only 16, and they've been especially incredible. Since I got pregnant with Jackson, and they supported me
Hmm.
and financially, but also on my return to play as well. So they kept my place open on the program, and we were in regular contact, and they helped me return to play safely, and injury prevention and all of that. And then again through
Hmm.
COVID, like they've sent me pull up bars and like stuff to put my wheelchair on so I can, like a rolling road kind of thing. They've set me up with gym programs that I can do
Oh,
at
nice.
home. So yeah, they play and have played a massive part in my career.
So looking at your early career, you said they picked you up at 16. What was it like? Well, how did you feel at school in terms of, no, if you knew that was your career path and that's what you wanted to do? What was that school period like for
Yeah,
you?
I mean, school for me, like in general, wasn't that great to be honest, because I didn't have many friends, and I was bullied throughout of all of my school basically. So it was like a very lonely time. So like when I had tennis, it was almost like a little escape for me. Um, and then, you know, I did well in my GCSEs. Well, I couldn't even believe that I did well because I was competing. And I was like, no way am I going to pass these, but I did. And yeah, and then when I left school, I was just a bit like, well, what am I going to do? Because I was in that sort of time where I was good at tennis, but I wasn't great. So it was like, where am I going to go with this? So I went to college for
Okay.
3 months, and then I was like, no, this ain't for me. So I quit all education and went full time into tennis, and just was like, well, I'm never going to have the opportunity to be 16 again, and to pursue a tennis career, whereas I can always come back to education when I'm older. My mum at first was like, no, don't do that, get your A levels.
That's what I was
Yeah,
gonna.
like at
That's what I was
first
gonna
she was
ask.
like, no, you need to go to college. But when I explained to her that, you know, what I basically just said to you, that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, then she was all right with it.
Mm-hmm. So was that quite important to you that your family were okay with it, or were you quite like headstrong and say this is what I
Yeah,
want to
no, to
do,
be
this
honest,
is what
like,
I'm
yeah,
doing,
I don't really care what
or
anyone says.
was it?
Like, I'm just going to do
Yeah.
what I want to do. So I am like extremely headstrong, really, really ambitious. So yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a good trait, but I guess sometimes annoying for like my parents or like close family. So yeah,
It
like
is.
I basically said to her, I've quit college. Like, you're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it. But I mean, looking back now, it was the best thing I ever did. So she can't complain.
Of course. And
Hmm.
so you played doubles as well. Um, headstrong in a doubles partnership, competing. What's that like in terms of trying to manage that relationship and personalities? Because your partner surely is just as competitive as
Yeah, I
headstrong as you
mean,
are.
doubles hasn't. I say it's not been my strong point because it's actually where I've got all of my title, well, most of my success from. You know, like I got 10 of my slam wins are in doubles,
Mm-hmm.
but um, I think it all depends on the partner because obviously with Yui, who I've won all my slams with, she's like my best friend, and she's going to be my
Mm-hmm.
bridesmaid at my wedding actually. So we have a really strong connection. Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
yeah, so like we just clicked. You know when you just find that one person where you just completely click with? That was like me and Yui, and we didn't even really need to
Mm-hmm.
communicate. We didn't need to train together. It just happened. Whereas with my Paralympic partner, Lucy, things were a lot harder, you know, like we're just completely two different people. And that's where my sort of headstrong trait
Mm-hmm.
maybe doesn't help the team.
So is that quite hard for you? Your kind of coaches and everyone around you, is that a lot? They play a big part in that in terms of motivating you and goal
Yeah,
setting and all those kind of
massively.
things.
And I think it's about working with the right people as well. You know, the people that we work with, our coaches, they know me so well, so they know what gets me going and what I hate. And you know, I'm quite a blunt person. Like I tell it how it is. I'm always honest with people,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, I see that as a great thing because everyone knows where they stand. But I guess, you know, when you're in a team environment, um, that's where I've really had to learn how to communicate with other people who don't think like me. And it has been really, really
Yeah.
difficult. That's why I prefer singles.
So yeah. So I can imagine I would, as much as I love playing team sports and I do play football, I do personally, like, I'm competitive with the amount of like assists I can get. So I'm not even thinking like, oh, a team scoring a goal, even though I'm playing that pass. I've mentioned it previously. I'm playing that pass to someone else. And I've got my target for my assist, and that's my own personal one. So, and I know even at a lower level, my manager's like, oh yeah, we want you to get this season, and I'll be like, okay. And I won't really think of the goal. We'll just, yeah, I'm quite, yeah, I like individual stuff as well. So you say that you seems like your partner, your coach, they're all good friends with you. So it's really important to have those really close bonds. I couldn't do a podcast without mentioning your dad, because he seems like he plays a important part in terms of your journey, how you got into tennis, and how your relationship is with him. What was it like having a
Yeah.
Paralympian for a dad at first?
Yeah. So yeah, like he got me into tennis like when I was 3. Um, and I guess I didn't. It's almost like I didn't have a choice, but it wasn't not like, you know, you must play tennis. Like I wanted to play tennis, but it was all I was ever surrounded by was tennis.
Mm.
So I think it was only natural I was going to go into it. And he coached me up until around about 10, 11 when I got talent spotted. Um, and then he's obviously played like a massive part in my journey all the way up until now. Obviously, he doesn't see me play as much now, um, but he has been to all the slams with me. So he's done the calendar slam in different
Oh,
years.
nice.
So it's always nice to be able to win big and play on big stadiums when both my parents can watch as well.
Was he a because you say you like love and hated sport? Did you have role models within sport, or was your dad a role model for you, or did you look up to
Yeah,
anyone
like at the
else within
beginning,
sport?
obviously, I just copied dad and wanted to get. It was always about beating my dad's bronze medal, which I still haven't done, like in 3 games. It's so annoying. So it was always like an in-house thing. It was like, oh, you've never done better than me because I've got bronze, you've got bronze. But I get asked that question a lot, and I'd never ever had like any role models really. Um, I mean, I don't know. I just haven't really felt the need for it. I guess now I just think that the people who are in the public eye are either, in my opinion, false role models, or just maybe not portraying the truth. Um, so I was always my own role model. Like I always knew who I wanted to be, and I knew what I wanted to achieve, and that was enough motivation for me. And then when I got to quite an established tennis player, I always made it sort of my mission that I was going to be a role model for other people, where I was just honest and I was real, and what you say on the tin, like, and that was something that was really important to me, especially posting on social media and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll show the good things, but I also want to show the really crap things as well, because that's just life, and that's what happens to even the top players in the world.
So what would you that's really interesting, because I totally agree, and I think that people do need to show the ups and the downs. That's what Humans of Hits is about, is people telling their honest story and showing that there are so many obstacles in the way to stop people feeling happy and healthy, that people only show once they've past the finish line, that they've achieved that, not the times they've fallen over whilst running. So I think what would you say is some of the downs for you that you feel like you could share with people? Whereas there been times where you feel like you have been down in terms of your career, or
Yeah,
trying to get to
absolutely.
where you
Like
wanted to
I've not
be?
been, I'm not really shy about anything. Like I'm happy really to talk about all aspects of my journey, because I think they're really important. And in 2011, I suffered with depression. I just got into a really bad crowd of people, and I just like wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a good relationship either. Um, and this was right before London, so it was a really big time in my career, and my whole like world was like crumbling in front of me. um, and a lot of people don't think that sports stars um, go through those kind of things, and actually anyone can. Because just because like I'm successful,
Yeah.
obviously at the time I was a lot less successful, but I was 19 and going into London, and then that's where I won my first bronze. And you wouldn't have known like a year before that I was in a state of depression and having therapy. And I think it's important for people to know that.
Yeah. So is that, do you feel that was also due to the pressure of the 2012 Olympics that kind of made you feel that way as well, or was it mainly just the other things off the pitch, off the field,
Yeah, I
court?
think.
Sorry, get it right.
I know
I
I
always
always
say
say
pitch,
court, so
such a
it's fine.
fibula.
I think it was a bit of a mixture of
Yeah.
both. Like, I think mainly like the outside stuff, just being in a really toxic relationship and not being around the right people. But like I said, I was 19 and I was going into home games, and I was expected to be on the podium in some form.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a great pressure, and I was literally bricking it. Like, I was so scared. And if I look back
Yeah.
on my performances, I just think, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Like, I played so bad because I was so nervous. I don't even know how I ended up on the podium. Um, But yeah, again, like people need to know that.
Yeah. So it's quite funny how people do overanalyze it. Even though being on the podium is an amazing achievement, you can obviously, like you're saying, watch back and think, I was actually quite crap then, and
Absolutely.
I needed to do better. It's really strange that people still reflect at the highest level. So yeah, is that thinking about you growing up still, and as we're going through that kind of journey, because
Mm-hmm.
you do have brittle bone disease. So there is a
Genesis
full name for it,
imperfecta.
osteo. I say osteoporosis imperfecta. I keep getting confused because I did sports development as a degree. It's a fake sports science, basically. And I know osteoporosis, but I believe
Yeah.
that's onset, not, yeah. So I know also, and I keep getting the two mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, brittle bone disease. So was there was there a real fear of injury as you were going through your career, and either before games or before big tournaments? Is there a fear of that, or is that just something that you naturally
I
are aware
think
of?
like when I was younger, maybe yeah, um, but not now. Like I only have the condition in my legs, so it never affected my upper body. So obviously playing
Hmm.
tennis in a chair has no effect on my upper body. But you know, when I was a kid
Hmm.
and I was breaking my legs, like you know, a couple of times a year sometimes. So I was quite conscious. Yeah,
Was it
something like
26
that. I mean, I've
times?
lost count, but it's something
Do we
like
see?
that. So yeah, I was very much aware of it then, whereas I
Yeah.
haven't broken my legs since I was about 12 now. So to be honest, I don't really think about it that much anymore.
Hmm. Oh, that's perfect. I think it's something that can hang over people. So if that's not how you feel coming into tournaments, it's a big weight
Yeah,
off your mind, I
massively. And
guess.
I've never really been that
So,
I'm not that bothered, but I'm just not that bothered like that I've got a condition because for me it's part of me, but it doesn't define me. So I just sort of
mhm.
get on with things.
No, that's perfect. That's why I didn't want to really mention it too much in the podcast, but I think it's quite important for people to realize that, like yourself, you have come through quite a lot in terms of what you've had to do to get to the top stage, and you've achieved so much that it should be highlighted as a success, not necessarily as a barrier. So we're looking through we're going nicely through the questions now. So you were fairly young in terms of a physical activity when it became a career pursuit. Um, you say, what was the moment it started? You said you got picked up at times scouting. You were scouted. How did that happen? What was that
Yeah,
process
so
about?
I went to like a junior camp. They still do them now actually, but they're much better now. It's like a
Hmm.
regional thing, a couple of times a year, and the LTA put them on to just get juniors all together. And you know, when I was playing, there was probably
Hmm.
like 30 juniors that you know turned up to the event. So it was an amazing weekend, and I could be with other children who were disabled like me. So it was like a really comfortable environment. Um, and yeah, I just went to a few of those, and that's how they have like talent spotters in there. And then I just sort of got initiated, I
Hmm.
guess.
Have you kept in contact
Yeah,
with
so the
anyone from that
first
first
ever
day
camp I went
of
on,
that
I
first
met a
camp?
girl, and she's now the maid of honor at my wedding. She's my best friend. She's basically my sister. Like we're just like
Oh,
one
that's so
soul.
cool. That's so cool that you how that's so that's was that the
Well, I
age of
met
11? Did you
no,
say?
I
Sorry,
met her when
was
I
that
was
then?
about 4 and she was 5. So like I was going to these as
Oh
like a
wow.
fun event. I wasn't looking to get like talent spotted at 4, obviously.
Mm,
And I'd been going there for years and years.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's amazing friendship from 4 to now.
that's so. Oh, I love that because then you can kind of see that. Have you ever played competitively
Yeah.
against
Not so
her?
much now. But yeah, growing up, we were always
Mm.
rivals.
And how did that feel to like,
Um,
compete against a friend?
yeah, like
Did it feel strange at
when
all?
you're younger and inexperienced, it wasn't a nice thing. But now, if we come up against each
Mm.
other, it's just business, isn't it? Like, we're respectful on the court, and then we'll probably go to dinner later, so it doesn't really make a difference.
That's pretty cool. And so looking at that point from when you turned professional, so that point, did anything change, and did you feel different from that moment? Like, this, I'm actually. Was there a point where you felt, yeah, I am a professional now in this sport, and did it change the way you felt about yourself,
Yeah, I just had
or what
more
you were doing?
clarity. Because beforehand my plan was to go to uni and do the normal route. Because I've always been quite big on education.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess when I decided to make that decision, I just had clarity that this is what I was going to do. I was going to give it a really good shot, and if it worked out, great. And if it didn't, I'd just go back to college. So yeah, I just felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I could just really enjoy being a tennis player.
That's pretty cool. So you mentioned education. I'm a big advocate for it. I work within education, and I went through it all. What do you think you would have done because you said you went to college? What
Um,
do you think you would have done at
so I was
university?
actually studying to be a coroner. Yeah, everyone has the same reaction.
Nice.
um,
It's like I would not have. I could have, yeah, guessed about
yeah,
50
I've
times,
always
and I would
been
have guessed
quite
that at all.
scientific. What I don't want sciencey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I really wanted to do.
Mm.
Which is a massive contrast to playing tennis.
Mm.
Obviously that was a long time ago, and I no longer want to examine dead people. Um, but yeah, like I'm just big on education. Like, I love to learn, and I love to do courses and just
Mm.
expand my knowledge, like any which way, really.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So do you see yourself going into, if you're big on education? Have you been doing your qualifications at all? Are you going to kind of
Yeah,
look at going
so
into that afterwards,
yeah,
and
definitely.
like coaching?
So I qualified as a mortgage broker this year. Um, so I am actually, yeah, so
That's how
I'm
we got
fully
this
qualified.
through Danny. Yeah.
Um, and then I started up my own business in lockdown, um, in property investment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've done other courses as well alongside, mainly in finance and property, because that's my massive big passion, and that is like a career I really want to go into after tennis. And ever since having Jackson, my sole reason for coming back to tennis was to make it to Tokyo, and then start to
Mm-hmm.
think about the end of my career. But obviously, I'm only going to be 29, so I can't be retired on no job at 29. And I had this other passion, so I've been using the time in lockdown to really work on that.
So yeah, I think it would be quite important to talk about your time during COVID. So you've been using it to develop your business, as you said, and you said that the LTA have been quite important in terms of giving you some equipment, and I'm guessing they gave you quite a few plans and stuff like that. How have you found the last
Yeah,
couple of
like
months in general?
honestly, like when they announced lockdown, I was a state for about 3 weeks, because 2020 was such a big year for
Mm.
me, like it was for many. But I just kind of felt like everything I'd worked
Mm-hmm.
for was just now gone, because Tokyo gone. I was getting married. I mean, I still don't know if my wedding's going
Mm-hmm.
ahead. Um, I was thinking about doing work experience as a trainee mortgage advisor. I had all that set up, and then we were going to have another
Mm-hmm.
baby, and so it was all like planned. And then lockdown came, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life? Like, everything's postponed. Some things I don't know if I can
Mm.
postpone. And then after about 3 weeks of wallowing, I was like, well, I need to sort my life out, because I've got all this time now where I could actually be productive. And that's exactly what I did, really. And I started piecing it back together.
That's amazing. So we all the way through this has been great, because I've had questions about barriers to participation, and all the way through this we've kind of touched on loads. So that's amazing. But the one thing I would like to talk about it's not it's classed as possibly a barrier, but obviously because it's hard to play during. But whilst being pregnant, you
I
won
won
a trophy
Wimbledon,
whilst
yeah.
being pregnant, right? Won Wimbledon. So in terms of how did that feel? Did it feel any different? Was it
Um,
extra motivation?
yeah, like that was so unexpected. So obviously I knew I was pregnant. Um, and actually my plan. No, I
Do you have to
didn't.
say it?
What had happened was after Rio, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna have a baby. I'd been with my fiance for I don't know 7 years or something. Um, so I actually fell pregnant after Rio very very quickly. But unfortunately, I had a miscarriage in January of 2017, which was difficult. Obviously, it's difficult, but in terms of tennis, it was really difficult because I was waiting for
Yeah.
that 3 month scan to then tell the LTA that I was pregnant, but I never reached. I was 10 weeks when I lost the baby, so um,
Okay.
and they were asking me why I'm not going to Australia. To compete at the Aussie Open and why I wasn't going to play at the World Cup. And so I had to open up about what had happened. And honestly, they were really amazing, really, really supportive, and totally understood what was happening. They gave me the time that I
Mm-hmm.
needed. And then I said, well, I'm going to come back to tennis for a bit, but I still am looking to expand the family. And then I fell pregnant again, really, really quickly. So I was obviously really nervous, and it was coming up to Wimbledon, and I was 11 weeks pregnant, and everything was going all right. So I didn't tell anybody, but obviously I told my best friend Louise, who I said previously, who I met at the camp, who was
Mm-hmm.
commentating on the match. But I've told her, do not say anything about the
Okay.
baby. And obviously Yui, who I was playing doubles with, I had to tell her because she's my partner. Um, and I was suffering really, really bad with morning sickness. Like I was on medication. It was awful. I was in a state.
Mm.
And I said to her, look, if you really want to play doubles with me, that's fine. If you don't, I understand. She was like, no, what are you talking about? Let's play. It'd be fine. I said, let's just try and make the final because I'm feeling really sick. I'd gained a little bit of weight, so I was like a bit nervous about that. And then when we won, I was just like,
Mm.
what just happened? Like, how did I do that? Because I remember in the final, they put the final on in the morning, which is terrible for my morning sickness. So I wasn't happy
Oh
about
God.
that. And then the first set, I think, went by with a blink of an eye because I felt so ill. So I actually took a toilet break, was sick, came back, and was like, right, I'm just going to give it absolutely everything because this might be my last one. Like, I don't know if I'm going to come back to tennis. I don't know what's going to happen. And then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we won it. And all I wanted to do in my speech was say, oh my God, I'm pregnant. But obviously I couldn't. So it was such a weird time.
So, Callum, for those who are listening, Callum is the producer of this podcast, and he loves to put a little comment to me because he likes to think he's really funny. So he said it wasn't doubles, it was
I actually
triples.
had one of those
Hey,
comments on Twitter
and that's just my one
when I
bit.
actually announced it. It was probably you
Did you?
tweeting.
So, so yeah, that's I like to kind of slip in that I don't come up with this cheesy stuff. It's Callum on the keyboard, but yeah. So I think that's so cool. So I did. It must have like just internally given you kind of that like aggression. But the first thing I picked up on was you saying,
Mm.
"Let's just try make the final." That's quite just a high aim to start with. I think I didn't know if people naturally thought that way in terms of, oh, I want to try win, whether it was let's try podium or something like that. You were like, let's try make the final. That's
Yeah,
quite a high aim to
but
start.
I felt like we had the track record. Like we'd won so much together, and previous to
Mm.
Rio, we were winning the slams together. So I felt like we were probably not going to win because I wasn't on my game, and our opponents were really strong. Still are a strong pair. But I really did believe that we could make the final, even with me being sick everywhere.
Hmm.
And that was the aim, like I think that was just me being ambitious. But yeah, I never ever expected to win. I didn't even think that was going to be an option.
So it leads us on kind of perfectly to our next question about like your proudest achievement. Throughout your history with physical activity, what would you say your proudest achievement is? Is it that point at Wimbledon, or is it something else within your career or before
Um,
your career?
I'd say probably winning the US Open singles title, because that was my first and only Grand Slam singles to
Mm-hmm.
date. And again, I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
I was going to make the final of US Open that year. Um, I remember it so well because we had a tournament beforehand, and honestly, I was a shambles. I couldn't, like, my forehand had just gone. I was playing terrible, and I was having a breakdown to my coach saying, "How am I going to play a Grand Slam when I can't hit a forehand? What is going on?" Um, and I went in. I got to the semi-finals, and I was playing number 3 in the world, and I was a set and 4-2 down, and I was just like, "Well, this is gone." And then all of a sudden I was winning the match. And I couldn't believe that I'd got through to my first Grand Slam final after being a set and 4-2 down to, one of the world's best, who previously I had beaten, but in the moment I was like, God, I'm getting thrashed here. um and then I faced Yui, my doubles partner, in the final. Again, I was like, well, this is going to be tough because she's an amazing player. um and first set I won 6-4, playing pretty well. And this, mind you, this was at midnight because we'd been rained off all day, so we had to actually go on court at midnight, so I was knackered. And the
Okay.
second set I only won 7 points in the whole set because I just had a complete shambles. And then by the time we were playing the third set, it was like 2 a.m. and I won it 6-1. And it was just such
Mm.
a weird tournament for me, like so up and down. And then after that was about 3 a.m. by the time we got to the hotel, and me and Yui both went out for a McDonald's. So yeah, it was a fantastic memory.
That's love the plug, the McDonald's plug. So what's I just it really is crazy to think that two people in the final would then just go to have McDonald's together afterwards. It's such a crazy, but obviously you have that great friendship and your doubles partners as well, so it is a bit different. But I just couldn't imagine that happening because I'm normally watching you guys, and it seems like you guys are just at each other's heads, like competing. That you wouldn't be able to take that off the field, but it, like with you, it just seems so natural that tennis is a job, and once you check out for the day, that you're just
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
Jordan is
absolutely. And like,
just
I
you could
appreciate, like,
have a
it's
chat
not
with.
like that for everyone. And there are some people obviously you're closer to than others. And me and Yui are the best of friends. So whenever we're on the court, we're on the court to play. But as soon as that match is over, we're friends, and that's never ever going to change. Um, but for me as a person, I'm just like, well, this is my business, this is my job. Of course, I want to beat you, but I'm never going to be disrespectful to you. And as soon as the match is over, we're now just two
Mm-hmm.
humans. So there's no difference for me. Obviously, in sport, you're going to get people who don't feel like that. But for me, I'm quite big on fair play, and respecting the game.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing because in my day job I look after the university sport bit for King's College London, and the tennis bit where they self officiate has always blown my mind at the lower level. I don't I just it really I just don't get how it could be possible. But then the fair play is such a big part of it, and I speak to them all the time, and I say, yeah, sometimes people are a bit dodgy with it and try to bend the rules and stuff like that. But yeah, I just always
Yeah, I
find that bit quite
mean,
strange with
I've
tennis.
had, I could tell you some stories about people having not no fair play. And one that will always stick with me was I was playing a lady from Thailand, and she was so angry that I was beating her that she spat on me. Yeah, I was at the
Is this
World
a
Cup.
competitive match?
So it was Thailand versus Great Britain,
Wow.
and yeah, she just spat on me, and all of her team were like cheering that she'd spat on me, and I was just like, "What is going on?" this is crazy. Like, seriously, like this is a game of tennis. Like, what is going on? I did beat her in the end, so that's all I needed to do. But yeah, it was just
What was her name?
I don't, you know what, I
Is there
can't
a
even
name and
pronounce her
shame
name.
her?
I actually can't pronounce her first name. We just call her Candace because I think that's her surname. But she was actually a bronze
Okay.
medalist back in Sydney or something. But yeah, not cool.
Wow. Yeah, it does seem that way. Even when I've got a friend she's well into tennis, she plays the lower level, but she says that in doubles as well, do you normally see quite like two people ganging up on a can be quite vicious at points where people would take advantage and get really in your face. So it's just strange that even when at your level, I guess there was like people officiating and how did that even come? How did they even get
It was
into
a
that
change
situation
of
where she can do
ends.
that?
So like obviously we crossed paths and then she just spat on me.
Oh,
So the umpire didn't see it, but my team did. Um, so yeah, it wasn't a
yeah,
nice match at all. But I mean, that is the worst that's ever happened. Like that's like a unicorn moment. That's not happened since.
yeah,
But it always stick with me because like I can't believe someone would scoop that low, like during a game of tennis.
yeah. I can. Yeah, neither can
Mm.
I. To be honest, even at that level as well. Like you're saying, you're with you, especially being about fair play, and then that happening. But did that motivate you to kind of get on
Yeah,
and
like I just wanted
finish
to
the
beat her
job?
at that point because that was the only thing that was going to shut her up. And her team, who was every time I was serving, they were like screaming to try and make me mess up, and it was really really irritating. And you know when you can feel like your steam levels inside of you just like burning, it was like
Yeah.
that. But I just had to really keep composed and be like, okay, that's their behavior, but that's not how I behave. So I'm just gonna get on with it, beat
Mm.
her, say see you later, and then that's it, and that's what I did.
That's awesome. I'm just a bit conscious of time, so we're going to go into the final two questions that I like to ask people. I had so many more questions, but you just given us so many great answers that we'll have to skip a few today. So this one is: if someone's listening to this right now and they're feeling fired up to get into some physical to be physically active, they're feeling fired up. What would you say to that person to help them turn that feeling into an action to get people to get up and do something in
um
terms of physical activity?
well, I mean, if someone who hates all forms of physical activity can be a tennis champion, then I don't think anyone's got any excuse not to do anything, to be honest. um yeah, I mean, look, it's not for
That's
everyone,
fair.
and it's not always the most thrilling of things to do, but what it does give you is confidence, and it makes you feel really good. And that's the only reason why I do it, is because it makes me feel good and it makes me feel healthy. And it means I can keep up with my 2.5-year-old who's got me running around the kitchen most days. So, and for that, I am grateful.
Mhm. Awesome, thank you. And the final question, it's one we like doing, and I'll be brief in terms of how to describe it because I do babble on with this one. So we have an inspirational dinner party, yeah, and so you have three seats around your table. So and I'll give you a quick example of my one. So mine's my nanny Barb's because I love her, she's an angel. My Frank Lampard because I wanted to score goals like him when in football. Of course, I always mention Frank Lampard. And Graham Hughes, he was someone who travelled around all the United Nations without flying, and I think he would just have so many stories in terms of like, he's been to so many different countries that it'd just be a cool person to have. So you have three
Sorry,
seats.
my
Oh
TV just came on.
no!
Go again.
Oh, that's strange. So yeah, you have three seats around your inspirational dinner party. Who are you having and
Do they
why?
have to be sports people? Well, no, I guess not. You had your nan.
It can be anyone. Like I have my nan. It can be anyone, and it can be past. It could be past, present, and future. Well, no,
Okay.
that wouldn't even work. Past and present.
I would probably have, all right, Stacey Solomon, because she is my all-time like favourite person that I don't know. Oh, my TV's come on again. Can you hear it? Well, I'm going to mute it again.
A little bit, yeah. Oh yeah, that was it.
What is going on? Some ghost in here. Well, I'm going to start again.
So yeah, okay.
Okay.
Start just with
So my first
is
person would be Stacey Solomon because
cool.
she is my all-time favorite human that I don't know. So I would just love to be around her.
How have you
No, but I
ever
feel
tried to
like I
make it
should
possible?
because my best friend and my fiance always wind me up for um, watching all of her stories on Instagram and then like doing everything that she does. I just think she's hilarious, and I think because she's so real, you know, and like that's what I just really respect about people is just when they're
Yeah,
real, and that's what she does on social media. So yeah, I really like her, and she's
and
hilarious,
she's
isn't
really
she?
funny, really funny too.
Um,
Yeah, cool.
Henry
That's a
the
great first
Eighth,
one.
right? Because I'm absolutely obsessed with the Tudors. Um, so I went to Hampton Court with my best friend, and someone thought that I actually worked at Hampton Court because I knew so much about the paintings and who they were and stuff. Like massive geek. Don't ask me why. I don't know where that came from. I just know lots about the Tudor era. Yeah, I don't know.
I was
Like
going to ask you
I
why.
just love
Yeah.
that era. So I'd like to ask him, like, what was going through your mind when you kept killing all your wives? Um, and
Fair.
then
Yeah.
who would my third person be? Probably someone like Jacinda Ardern, you know, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, because she is an
That's a great
incredible
shout.
woman. Again, like I just love the fact that she is a mum and is just bossing life as the ruler of her country. And again, she's real. Like she cares about the people, and I just love to spend. I like to spend time with people who are interesting and have the same sort of values as me. And I think that would be a really cool but odd mix of people.
That would be a really odd mix of people. So just to finish it off, could you say my inspirational dinner party will consist of, and
My
then the three
inspirational
people,
dinner
please?
party would consist of Stacey Solomon, Henry VIII, and Jacinda Ardern. Although I'm feeling like Henry would not be happy with the amount of women at his table, but he's just going to have to get on with it. He's in the 21st century now.
He might
Maybe. I don't
marry
think
one
I'd
of you, to
want
be
to.
fair,
I
so
don't think I'd want to be
it
on
might be all
the
right.
chopping block.
Oh yeah, true. That's it for it today. Thank
all
you
right.
so much for that. It was there's so many areas that we discussed that I would not have expected, and it really shows just how just real you are, as you keep saying.
Yeah, no, that's
And
no
I loved
problem.
it. Thank
Cool.
you.
It's nice to actually have questions that aren't like, what's your only like tennis stuff, you know, like what did you feel in this match and what did you do here? And I'm like, can you ask me something a bit more like exciting? So it's quite nice to do a podcast which is about like loads of different things.